You have an officer approaching some guys at a 7-Eleven and says, "Hey guys, what's going on?" He does a consensual encounter. And now he says, "Hey, you guys got ID on you?" One guy's like, "No, I got no ID on me, man." He walked away. And another guy walks away. But now you got a gun. The law says you're required to produce ID upon the demand of law enforcement. Those guys weren't armed. But now if you want to be in compliance with the law, he's demanded it of you. But it's not because he knows you're armed. He's trying to do an investigation. And that's two separate things. I guess the give up the identification wouldn't be proof that you had a gun on you. You could just be complying, but it would be certainly evidence of it.
But if you had a gun and you didn't give up the driver's license, then you're definitely not in compliance with the statute. But it's interesting because it says a violation is in essence, a ticket for.
Yeah, it's non-criminal. So it's, yeah, this gets really interesting.
How are they going to enforce that? Are they going to let you keep your weapon and just give you a ticket?
Well, I think they're going to have to ID you. Like, how are you going to identify the person? They got fingerprint readers. Let's do the 7-Eleven incident. You know, you walk up to me and, "Hey, yeah, I got a gun on me. I'm cooperative and polite. You got any ID?" "No, man, I left it at home." They're not just going to let me go with that. At that point in time, they can't establish who I am and whether I'm in compliance or not. I'm not meeting this administrative law. So I think that instantly triggers a reasonable suspicion for a criminal investigation or probable cause, probably at that point. It doesn't tell you that you have to tell them you have a gun.
Correct. It doesn't say anything in the statute about if you are carrying, do you have to respond to the officer's question about, are you carrying?
The way the law was previously written for concealed carry permit holders was, upon demand, a concealed carry permit holder must present both their identification and the concealed carry permit together to the officer. And a lot of people misinterpreted that to say you had to give your gun too. The law was written the same way. There was no need to disclose your firearm. And that becomes a big question that I get all the time. And I'd be interested in your take on it. You're not carrying on your person. You're carrying in your glove box or center console. Let's say center console is probably the best spot. And so you're under the provision of the private conveyance, not under the provisions of the concealed carry permit. You get pulled over on your way home from work. You know, you're going 10 over, no criminal, idea, just a, Sunday afternoon type traffic stop, no drama. The officer walks up and then, do you advise disclosing, "Hey, I got a gun in the center console"?
I always talk to my clients first and foremost about their hand positions.
Yeah.
When they, I'm like, this is the time when you want to be at 10 and 2. I mean, you want your hands up high and up front, so it's very clear. You don't want to do anything to further elevate the tension of the traffic stop. And I think it's good form if you say to the officer, there is a firearm in the vehicle, and I am either a licensed carrier or I'm, in compliance with, the law or what have you. Even though it's going to create a momentary stress, it's going to be a lot better for the officer to believe that there's a trusting rapport that's being created, when you initially say that. And of course, the next question that the officer is going to say is, well, where is it in the vehicle? That's, that would be the appropriate time to sort of say it's in the glove compartment or, what if it is on your, if it is on your person? I think it's important that you say that, because if he does order you out of the vehicle and there's a valid reason for you to be ordered out of the vehicle and they stumble upon it, you've been in the field and had that signal zero call, call that everybody gets on high alert at that point. So
I disagree, though. I think the advice that you're providing there is pretty traditional advice. As a result of being a criminal defense attorney, you don't see the traffic stops that don't turn into an arrest or a ticket. I've seen many of times where young officers drastically overreact to a firearm, draw their firearm, or pull you out and put you in cuffs. And those cases don't really get reported because they kind of like sweep them under the rug because they don't press charges on them. But it's a really scary experience. And because of that, just the unpredictability, my position is, one, I don't advertise for sure that I have a firearm. I'm not going to tell that up front. But the second part of that is, now if they ask me, now I have a challenge. Now it's a pretty, like he's asking, now you're going my integrity. Am I going to lie about it? And I think my answer, especially with the idea of trying to push the boundaries of freedom as well, officer, even if I have a weapon in here, it is perfectly legal and securely encased, and it's not going to cause you any harm.
You think an officer is going to respond to that nicely on the roadside and not want to dig in deeper as to?
I don't know. I don't know. And every attorney I present that to says the same thing. I always tell my clients, so are you looking to stand on principles here? Like, are you trying to try this on principles, or are you trying to slip through under the radar? I'm more on a principle base. I know I'm legit. A lot of my clients may want to rather slip under the radar. So that might be a different response, but why would they get into my glove box? No.
Or God forbid your proof of insurance is in the glove box. So now you got to go open the glove box, right? And you got to, now he's going to see it.
Yeah,
right?
That's a game changer though, because for certain, you must tell the officer about the firearm well before he's going to discover it on his own. I 100% agree with your advice on don't let them stumble upon it.
Right.
So, but my position is if you're going to be carrying a firearm, to do so responsibly requires that to be planned out. You should have a pre-planned, method of a tactical response to a situation, meaning your firearm is convenient to handle for a bailout or whatever you're going to be involved in. But it also means that you're going to have to be responsible for it when you have passengers in the vehicle or when you're stopped by the police officers. If you're going to be a responsible gun owner, you've got to have your stuff staged. So you should not have your registration and insurance where your firearm is. That would be crazy.
I believe that every officer who's making a traffic stop believes that that next traffic stop could lead to a felony drug trafficking stop, right? I'm going to make this big old bust, because I'm making this little, 5 mile over the speed limit bust. And statistically, that doesn't bear out, right? There's literally, the odds of winning the state lottery are better than you getting that felony quantity drug traffic. You're going to have 1 million traffic stops before you get that big drug traffic.
Well, I think you're setting the bar too high there, though, because I think what I sought after was whatever I was assigned to hunt. As you progress through a law enforcement career, what you decide to hunt changes as your skill set improves. And so at the earlier stages, you go for this low-hanging fruit. Pursuing humans is like an ultimate challenge and can be a rush because it's exciting. I mean, getting into a foot pursuit, getting into a vehicle pursuit, man, that is a crazy adrenaline rush of an experience.
But you pull over a guy that looks like you or a guy that looks like me, and if we answer the officer back and we say, oh, there is a weapon, it's safely, held, it's in the glove compartment, but here's my license and registration. Some officers may just go run our license and registration and give us our ticket for 5 miles out, an hour over. Other officers, are going to handle it differently, and they're going to be like, do you have other weapons? Where's the bazookas and AK-47s and and all of that kind of stuff? And I agree with you. I don't think anybody should have to if you're in compliance with the law, you shouldn't have to disclose it at all. I mean,
you don't. But there may be a crime of like providing false information in police reports and sworn affidavits and perjury and stuff like that. But for you to tell an officer, no, I got a gun in here, that ain't a violation of law,
right?
Even if you're not telling the truth. Now, that may be against your moral compass. It's funny. I was recently tested in this. I don't drive like a jerk. I got all my fast driving out when I was in the highway patrol. I got pulled over actually on the way back from the police academy on 408. He asked about a firearm. And I said, I kind of avoided the question, but I said, I need to go to that direction. And he went down, why you give me a hard time? So that made me cave because that's not my goal to give a hard time to a law enforcement officer. I've always taught, do you have any weapons or firearms in the car? If the answer to that question is yes, the very next question is, do you have any desire to cause me harm? Depending on their response to that question, depends on how I'm going to progress in my investigation. But I've seen some pretty erratic responses. Yeah, I've got a gun in the car. Keep your hands there. Let's pull them out, get out of the car and handcuff. And now you're on the ground at the side of the road.
It heightens the blood pressure for sure.
Yeah.
Here's a question I pose to you. Do you think the change in the law, because there's going to be potentially more exceptions to the concealed carry, law, do you think that's going to change the perception of officers during traffic stops?
I think most of the training is that you default to the +1 rule. 0 equals 1, 1 equals 2. And that's kind of the way for suspects and guns.
Right.
And so you treat every car, especially in Florida. I mean, we've historically been known as like the wild, wild west for guns.
Every car in interaction is a potential discovery of a weapon.
But I think the clear-cut violations are going to be still like your criminal element that just got arrested for domestic battery within the past 3 years. That's going to be clear-cut. I think most of the cases is going to be the person's not going to have a gun, or they shouldn't have a gun and probably should be going to jail. I don't think our situations of I got a 1997, domestic violence withhold with a $100 late fee. I don't think that's going to be our primary case, but I definitely want to explore the possibilities of what the law, what they could do. And that way people are aware. And I want to discuss with multiple lawyers.